Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to Pre-Calculus Online. Um, this is your first video lecture, and I hope that you guys find these helpful. I'll spend a lot of time setting these up for you. Just a couple notes as you go through these. One is you'll see a lot of practice problems. And when I'm going through practice problems, I want you guys to make sure that you pause the video and you work through those problems with me. Just don't watch me do them. Actually pause and stop and walk through them with me. That'll be very helpful as you try to get a good handle on this material and develop your problem solving skills that are going to be necessary when you move on to calculus. Number two, I would tell you that you want to take notes on these. Make sure that you're stopping, pausing, taking notes about important things, especially any formulas that I'm highlighting or any things that I'm stressing. Make sure that you pay particular attention to those because you're going to see them again. And while you can come back and rewatch these videos, you should also make notes of where you found important information. Okay? And at the end of the video, there'll be some practice problems that I'll assign. They're in the book. These aren't graded assignments. These are more to help you develop the skills necessary to move forward to the next set of material. All right, with that said, let's get this video underway. Just a couple quick review things. I think most of this video should be review for you. Um, let's talk a little bit about the Cartesian plane or the rectangular coordinate system. You know that we have an x-axis over here, and a y-axis, which is up here. Okay, there's my y. You know that I have four quadrants. Quadrant 1 is over in this area, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Okay, you should know that both x and y coordinates in this quadrant, are positive. Down here they are both negative. Over here x is negative, y is positive, and down here x is positive and y is negative. Okay, this should all be familiar, and that's the origin right there. So, we represent with points. Okay, we represent x, y coordinates for points in the plane. And what we should note is that x points along this axis right there. If I go to the right of the origin horizontally, I get positive x values. If I go to the left, I get negative. And if I go vertically up off the horizontal axis, I get positive values for y. And if I go below, I get negative values for y. So that should all be a review for you. Okay. I want to talk about the Pythagorean theorem. You guys have seen the Pythagorean theorem. Here it is. Pythagorean theorem basically relates the three sides of a right triangle. Okay, so here I have a right triangle. There is my right angle right there. And basically it says that the length of the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the two sides squared, a squared plus b squared. Okay, so you guys have seen this, and why I'm bringing this up now is to get in something called the distance formula. Okay, so if I'm given 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, and I'm asked to find the distance of the between the 2 points, I want to set up and I want to actually use a right triangle. Okay, so here would be my right triangle right here. Oops, excuse me. Right there is my right triangle. Okay, and I can think about sides here would be, we can call that A. That'll be A. That'll be B here. And this will be my point C. Okay, so if I think about this now as a right triangle, I can use my Pythagorean theorem to relate those sides. Now, I can find the length of A right here, which is just the difference between the points x2 and x1, the absolute value of those. Okay, so I can find that distance right there just by using this right here. Okay, and then I can do the same thing vertically. Okay, I can look at this vertically. I can say, okay, the length of B here, the length of this side, is simply going to be equal to y2 minus 1. I'm going to take the absolute value because distance is always positive, which you guys should know that. So knowing that, I can say, okay, here's my distance formula. Okay, where d here is actually the distance of the length of the hypotenuse, or as we have it, c in our a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is my hypotenuse. This term right here is basically the length of A. It is the length of A. okay? And then this term over here is my b, okay? So this is still c squared equals a squared plus b squared, all right? Now if I plug in those values and I square, I get, this is what I get for my distance formula. So the distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. This is important right there. You guys should write that one down. Okay, there's my distance formula. Okay. Let's talk about the midpoint formula. Midpoint is basically what is the middle point between the point x1, y1 and this point right here. What is that middle point? All right, that's actually pretty straightforward because I'm basically going to find the average of the two values. All right, so basically I'm going to add up the two x values and divide by 2. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my y coordinate. All right, and that's going to give me the midpoint, which is right in the middle. Again, this is something you want to write down. Okay, so right now we have the midpoint formula, we have the Pythagorean theorem, and we have the distance formula. Doing a simple example here. Here's 2 points right here, 2, 2, and negative 2, 1, and I want to find the midpoint. All right, so let's go back to our point right here. Here's my midpoint rule right there. Okay, this is my midpoint formula. And now what I can do is I can simply plug in, okay, where this point was my, according to this was x1, y1, and down here we're going to have x2 and y2. And I just plug them in right here, okay. I go 2 plus negative 2 for my x coordinate, 2 plus negative 1, and I'm going to divide both by 2. And what you should see is my midpoint is going to be 0, 1/2. Okay, so there's my midpoint. The next question I want to know is what's the distance between those 2 points? Okay, and to find the distance, I'm going to use the distance formula. And again, I'm going to try to draw this as best I can. Whoops. I'm basically looking at a right triangle here. Okay, and again, this is just from my Pythagorean theorem. All right. Again, if I plug in my points that I'm given, get negative 2 minus 2 squared plus negative 1 minus 2 squared. This right in here, that right there should give me negative 4. And this will give me negative 3. If I square it, 16 plus 9 should give me 25, and I want the square root of that, which will be simply equal to 5. Okay, so hopefully that's a pretty straightforward example. Again, if you have some trouble, try this one again, pause it. Here's one that requires just a little bit more thought. I'm given a point A, so there's point A, and this point right here is the midpoint. So I'm given a point in the midpoint, and what I'm asked to do is find the coordinates of point B and the distance between the points A and B. So I'm asked to do a couple different things here. Let's start by finding the coordinates of point B. So here I have my midpoint formula right here because I'm given my midpoint, and I'm going to use that and plug some things in. Here's my midpoint. I'm given the A coordinate, so if we're letting A be my x1 and my y1, okay, so that's x1 and that's y1, and then the points for B, whatever B, we'll call them xb and yb. This means basically 2 things right now. The first thing that it means is that negative 2 is equal to 1 plus the b x coordinate of point B divided by 2. And at this point I can solve. I can multiply both sides by 2 and then bring that one over. Again, should be pretty straightforward math here. And you guys should get negative 5 for B, x of B. Okay, so the x coordinate of point B is negative 5. I can do the same thing for the y coordinate. Okay, I can say, okay, the y coordinate of the midpoint is equal to the first point, the y value of the first point, plus the y value of the second point, divided by 2. Again, you guys should be able to solve this. and see that I'm going to get 10. And that's going to leave me with my coordinates for point B is -5, 10. Okay? Now the second part is asking me for the distance. And so up here, here's my distance formula. Now I know what my x2 and x1 is, my y2 and y1. I can simply plug in. Okay, here's my second x value, second y value, and A is the first ones, way up at the top here. Okay. If I plug in now, I get the square root of 36 plus 64, which is equal to 10. Therefore, I can say the distance between these 2 points, A and B, is equal to 10. Okay? So, there are a couple examples. Here are a couple things that are going to help you guys for practice. I would pause this, write all these 3 things down. I would highlight a couple things here. Look at examples. I'll do this over and over again, fellas. We'll look at examples, walk through examples, make sure you understand those examples. They're good examples. I'm pointing them out to you, so you should pay attention to them. Okay. Here are some practice problems out of your book. These ones, 81, 83, 87, and 85, are just old practice. Work on some skills that you need to have for this course. And then check this website out right here, this Wolfram Alpha website. This is a website where you can do some additional practice with the distance formula, and I think that you'll find it really helpful. Okay, and just a few more things, fellas. Let's just go over exactly what we covered today. We covered basically we covered the Pythagorean theorem. We talked about the Cartesian plane. We looked at the Pythagorean theorem. We used the Pythagorean theorem to help us find the distance formula. We looked at the midpoint formula, and then we just did a couple practice problems. Okay, so this is the end of the first video. I suggest that before you move on to the second one, you do those practice problems that I have outlined for you, and then once you feel comfortable with those skills, move on to the next one. Okay, hope you guys have a good day. Hope you found this helpful. And again, if you have questions or comments, make sure you email me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. All right, fellas, have a good day.